Do I have a story for you?
I'm scared.
I'm sensing anxiety.
Well, I know where the story took place, so...
You do. So...
And from what you told me last time about Roman...
Our friend at Total Wine.
I'm a little scared now.
Well...
Is he transitioning?
No! He's our favorite Russian twink who works at Total Wine. And
if you remember from
previous
about
episodes,
a year ago,
he's like
a little bit less than a year ago.
He's like the sixth guest on this podcast, and he's never been on it.
He's the one who popped out of nowhere after we invoked Ukraine.
When I broke the Stoli Ukraine bottle by accident.
Yeah.
Which they still stock there, by the way. I saw it today. They're still selling a Stoli bottle. Instead of having Stoli Gold, which is an objectively good vodka, they replace that with Stoli Ukraine that, I don't know, they wash it through Zelensky's jockstrap. And that was the promo bottle they had a year ago to raise money. I don't think that they're raising money anymore. So I walk in. Before I can even visually process, Roman is behind like the manager's bullpen. Is like, oh, hey, we have a flash sale right now. And I'm like...
I got a notification about that, by the way, and I was like, oh, flash sale. I'm like, oh, too bad I won't be going today.
I don't know what a flash sale is. And I stopped here very impromptu. I don't know if you have to flash somebody to get a discount, which I would. I would to anyone. I would flash someone at a JCPenney's if it meant that I could get 3% off of a $10 or more purchase. I would.
What are you flashing? Your
I'm gonna whip
non-existent tit?
I'll whip a tit out. I don't care. So he said, flash sale. He said, and that vodka you like is $5 off. And I'm like, first of all, how does he know what kind of vodka that I like? Because we've bought about 6 different vodkas there.
Because he saw us eyeballing the Roberto Cavalli, I'm sure.
Which I guess is from their in-house brand. So this is the thing about Total Wine and More, which I don't think a lot of people know. They partner up with a company, I guess their company is called Spirits Direct and Winery Direct. So they have a stable of wine labels, alcohol labels that they sell directly at a discount. And then they also have the and More, which is the names that you know and love, like Crown Royal, like Grey Goose,
right,
and so on and so forth. So he said, $5 on the vodka. I was like, okay, all right. I couldn't even grab a card. Like, I was just like, oh, good to see you too. I grabbed the card and I walk around the corner. And I go to the sort of... I came in for a bottle of gin and some more tonic because we had this really good gin mare this weekend. We had some tonic. It was a very lovely, refreshing summer spritz. We walked down to the beach. Very nice. So I was like, okay, I'll get the gin because I know that they carry it here and it's actually very hard to find everywhere. Although I did know that the top 100 restaurants in the world list that came out this past week, it's some magazine or something, was sponsored by Gin Mare, so they're going places. So I don't need to plug them. They need to plug us.
Apparently.
So we need
to get plugged for sure.
Speaking of people who need to get plugged, we'll get to that. So walk around the corner, find my gin, and I'm walking down the vodka aisle and I see that certain ones have like a red tag on them that's like buy 2 get $10 off or something.
Okay.
And so I was confused that I thought that's the sale because the one that Roberto Cavalli, which our dear Roman knows that we like, was not marked. But I know it's one of their in-house brands that's supposed to have the coupon. So I download the app and you know that there's no service in that store.
Yes.
So I'm walking up and down every single aisle as the little dot, or the little like circle is slowly filling. And so as I'm walking towards the back, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get some Happy Dad, which again should sponsor us. Another thing on Happy Dad later. Put a bookmark in that because they sponsored a Vicky Gunvalson podcast I listened to.
Well, they stopped. Total Wine stopped carrying it for a while. I don't know if it was like just sold out or.
I think it was sold out because they're back now with the variety pack. With a berry flavor and with a grape flavor.
Grape.
There's a grape flavor now. So, got the Happy Dad. Walking around Mitch is over there stirring the rice. That's not a euphemism. So I'm walking around the store, and I'm trying to kind of like kill time while I'm waiting for this app to download so I can find out how much I get in coupons. So I set up a whole new account because I was going through my emails, which also, again, no service in the store, to try to find if I'm sure I have a Total Wine login. I've been going to that store for over a decade. Like I should have somewhere been accumulating rewards because you normally go together and I use your points and you get money back.
Which, by the way, if you had just told me that you had one, because
I didn't know.
I didn't know. I just assumed you didn't have one, and that's why we always put it on mine, because I had signed up semi-recently.
Well, I didn't know, but they do have a Total Wine in Fresno, and I went there many times, and it was very nice, and then when everything was shut down, I ordered a lot of stuff from there. So, anyway.
And it makes sense to put the points together because you get more $5 off coupons that way.
Yeah, because if you spend a certain amount, you go back in there like $5 off, $10. Like you get you save a lot of money basically. Right. It's like being part of a Costco membership you don't actually pay for. So I circle back, and a couple people are like Jen Psaki. I circle back, and there's a couple people are like, "Oh, can I help you find?" I'm trying not to look like I need help because they had like the crotchety old man there.
Good luck.
They had the Indian guy that yelled at you there. Like, it was like the murderer's row of bad staff members, and of course, our dear perky Roman. So
yeah, but as long as he's there, you can always just
I'm
say...
I'm protected.
Well, you can always just say, oh, no, Roman was helping me. That's okay. Thank you. That's okay. That's okay.
Thank you. So I get the mixers. I walk down. There's an Israeli wine aisle. Like, there's some weird corners in that Total Wine. It's kind of like It's like Bed Bath & Beyond when you step into the Beyond part. Like, you go, and there's some weird shit. There's like an absinthe cupboard.
If they had alcohol at Bed Bath in the Beyond of Bed Bath & Beyond, I'd use that coupon that they send out all the time.
Oh, if they had a coupon on alcohol at Bed Bath & Beyond, it would be over. So it would still be around. It wouldn't be over. It wouldn't have been purchased by Overstock.com today, who's going to have a Bed Bath & Beyond section on their website, which I think is stupid. So anyway, I get my gin. I walk around back to the gin aisle. But I guess that coming in... I've never come in the store this late before. It's like 4 p.m.
We're usually there around... Noon to 2, somewhere around like that.
But apparently this is when they start to restock stuff or take inventory or whatever. So they were training a new guy on doing that, and they had the little forklift. Mm-hmm. And they blocked every single aisle I was on. To try to get... So I see him pulling up the vodka. Okay, I'll go look at tequila. Oh, no, he's up to tequila. Okay, I'll go look at whiskey. Nope, he's in the whiskey corner. And I'm just like... I can't get out of here. I'm being trapped. I felt like the rat that's in the maze in like the Skinner experiment or something like this. Like I was just like, they're trying to get me to spend more than $30.
The path keeps changing.
Yes, the path kept changing, and it was all focusing on me spending more money. So I'm trying to go down every aisle. I'm getting stymied wherever I go, and I keep looking. So I'm like, well, I see that I finally get the app to work when I'm down like my 6th aisle that's being blocked off. And right around that time, I noticed that another good gin, Sipsmith, which was $60 last week, was down to $35. And it's a 57% alcohol. It's a very high proof.
What?
Yes. So that's what I bought. It has that black... It's a very beautiful, like...
Trying to kill us?
It looks like a beautiful powder bathroom wallpaper in like a very rich person's house. And it tastes like the gin that they would serve in that person's house. It's very good.
In that person's bathtub?
Exactly. No, trust me. That bottle is like double strength. So that is definitely a deal. That's like $120 worth of gin. So... I guess that...
So you put like 1 in your martini instead of 3?
You put like 1 shot in a drink.
Yeah.
So... continuing my little sort of like snaking up and down the aisles, and I really tried to see if there was anything else we needed, and we didn't. So I have in my cart 2 bottles of gin, tonic, and Happy Dads, the mixed package. And I went back to the whiskey because it's at an angle, so no one can block off that aisle. So I hung out there and I was like, oh, I should get you more of the Crown Royal Peach. Which, by the way, comes in a handle, so unfortunately you don't get your felt bag.
I've never seen the handle.
I've never seen the handle either, so I was surprised. And the handle was
I've seen the handle of the regular, but I've never
not
seen
the
handle
flavored.
of the peach, yeah.
$20 less than if you bought 2 regular bottles. And it's the 1.75. Right. So it's a real good, like that was like $38. And the regular bottle's like $28. Yeah. So it was a good deal. So I'm walking in my cart, and I can't I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, this coupon. I'm trying to navigate their stupid app. Like, I don't know how it works. There's no service. I'm upset. This was supposed to be a 1-bottle day, but they mobilized to ensure that I bought enough alcohol for the month.
Anytime that we walk into that store, especially if we're together, which it's a good thing I wasn't there because we probably would have had 2 boxes worth of stuff rather than just your one. Anytime that we go in there for one thing, we end up leaving with 5.
Because then you're like, oh, what if my fear, as you say, as a Southern woman, and I think that there's a couple of those proclivities I have too. My fear is that guests come to our house, you offer them a drink, and you don't have what they like. You watch the disappointment in their face, and then they have to have something else that they didn't want. So I try to have rum and whiskey and gin and vodka and the mixers appropriate between to where you have to have a stock bar. Or for the people who don't want anything seltzer. Or non-alcoholic things for people who don't drink. Or beer for people who, hate themselves. And all the kinds of wine with the appropriate glassware. It's hard to build up a bar.
With the appropriate glassware.
I have the appropriate glassware.
You do now because I brought it.
I've always had it.
No.
You didn't have red wine glasses. You only had white wine glasses.
No, I have white, red,
No,
and
your red
poured.
wine glasses are small. Those are like little
No,
dessert
I don't
glasses.
have burgundy glasses. That's what I don't have. That's what you have.
Well, step up your pussy.
Very different.
Get that thong out your pussy, playa.
And to be quite honest, because we brought it up, and I'll let you finish your story, I promise. But for those of you who, don't know the difference, well, no. It's, if you don't drink, you don't know the difference. Like that's a real
true.
thing. I mean, especially if you don't drink wine, there's a different wine glass for every different varietal of wine.
Not just colors.
So if you had a fully stocked, glassware system, it would need an entire room almost. Like, come on. There's a little bit overboard. I'm never going to go that far.
There's those weird shaped snifter things that are for specific dessert wines. Like, there's like one for a port and then one for like an ice wine. Like, then they're different. And that's just sick.
But even there's a Chardonnay glass versus a Riesling glass. These are different glasses. That's a little bit much, in my opinion. I would not actually have all of that unless money were absolutely no option. A regular white wine glass will suffice for the two of them. The distinction between a red wine and a burgundy wine glass is the same thing. Like, are you serving Cabernet or are you serving Burgundy?
It's
like,
a slightly different, larger, more fluted glass.
It has a different shape for a different purpose, for a different for a reason. But if you're not a wine aficionado, you don't give a fuck. So
So it's a little much. But
I wanted to put a pin in what your jab at me that I don't have all of the wine glasses.
I'm not the one who drinks. You drink wine out of a paper bag.
I would not.
Bitch.
I would not.
So anyway, I'm moving down the aisle, and I finally come back to the beginning, and so I had to kind of play like dumb blonde for a second. And I was like, Roman jumps. You know what? Barbie's not out yet. We're not at that point in the summer yet. Roman jumps from behind the manager's bullpen. Like, I don't know how he moves. He moves like a chess piece at a diagonal. And I don't think he has feet. He just, like, hovers from place to place, like Casper the Friendly Twink.
Without making a sound.
Silently. It really scares me, because I've never seen someone where you blink and they have moved 10 feet in an opposite direction, and they're not sprinting or sweating. It's very strange.
Or just appear in front of you without being summoned.
Like, you know what's gonna happen? We're gonna call Total Wine Corporate and we're like, we really love Roman. We want to, give him a thumbs up. They're like, we don't have anyone named Roman who works here. What? No one. That's not an employee name.
And then we force them to show us the security cam footage, and we're talking to nobody.
And it's just us talking to the wall, like that one, like the video of the woman on the bus doing the whole conversation with the empty seat next to her.
That would be our shit. Yeah. We're on our bullshit again, yeah. And we don't even take drugs.
On a corollary note, because I want to get back to that. Did I ever tell you that at one of my jobs we had a manager there who was a manager for like a month? He was gay. He was terrible.
You chased him away.
No, he chased away everybody. He wore padded underwear for his butt. And you can ask my friend Mikkel about this. He sat on a stool and he went left and the pads went right. He farted constantly.
Oh my God.
And he had this kind of annoying little voice. But once he got fired for eventually like showing up late and not showing up so many times, we looked at his resume and called all of the places he previously worked, because he was like, oh, I was a regional manager for TJ Maxx and Marshalls and blah, blah, blah. He didn't work at any of the... They were like... It was the same thing. Like, you called and they're like, we had no one with that name who worked here, ever. Like, I've been in the hiring department for 11 years, I would know. And we're like, shit, he made up everything. So he didn't even bother to do the, like, I can't explain my resume because I have an NDA. He just fully made up a whole bunch of bullshit.
And I can one-up that, but I'll save that for later.
So back to Roman. So Roman, grabs my phone and starts, like, doing things.
Oh.
And like, he's like, okay, this and this and this and this. And I'm like, ah! And he's just adding on coupons. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, so the Cavalli is that you can do this and then $5 off and $10 off. And he's going a mile a minute. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. I'm dehydrated.
He must have been on his prep this morning.
I'm tired. He took 3 doses of prep with his iced coffee. He was going, Jack. So what I could garner from what he said is that there was a coupon he added for the vodka. And there was another coupon he added for wine. So I'm like, okay. So I go and get the vodka. I find the bottle and I'm like, okay, it's $41 for a 1.75 liter bottle, which is still cheaper than Grey Goose and about Grey Goose quality, down to $36. That's a good deal. That's the cheapest vodka you'll find that doesn't, burn. And I went and got that bottle of champagne you like, because that's a winery direct champagne. So it was $10 off for that bottle. Which is a pretty good deal. It's the Veuve taste-alike.
Right. Well, no, better. I mean, I have not done a direct taste test, but the people at Total Wine have.
Yeah.
And they've said, 7 out of the 10 people preferred the Total Wine, the winery direct version.
And the other 3 were locked into the case.
I think
Yet. They're like the people in the submarine. They have not surfaced.
The other 3 were Heather Dubrow. And I said, no, I know my Veuve.
So I finally go back around to him to make sure that he approves of my choices, because he's blocking the exit. He will not let me check out unless he approves the choices I made. So he looks through the cart and he says, okay, he's like, oh, this, you went fancy. He's like, oh, this champagne is so good. This is, he said, he looked over to his left. He said, I would have given you a taste. And I was like, of what? He's like, oh, the champagne. We do taste tests for this all the time. I'm like, all right. He said, yeah, it's really good. People prefer it to Veuve and blah, blah, and did the whole spiel. And I'm like, oh, you don't have to sell me. It's in my cart. I'm not going to go put it back. It's already cold. I'm not, I've sold myself on this. Then he went through all the other selections I had made. When I'm going to do a look for you to show the look on his face when he picked up the handle of Crown Royal Peach that was in the cart.
You know what?
He picked it up by the handle and he went, ugh, and put it back down. And I looked him right in the eye and I said, it's not for me. And he said, okay. And then he just continued on his spiel and everything like this. But he looked at the bottle of Crown Royal like it was like, he looked like I was holding like a miscarriage.
I'll let you finish your story, and then I want to vindicate myself on this or explain myself.
No, that's the story. I just wanted to show you the disgust that our favorite person at Total Wine had for your choice in liquor. That's it. I went and checked out. I got my box. I went out to the car. It was very heavy. He made sure I got my coupons, and we moved it along. So, I also found that I already did have a Total Wine account, so I have 2 of them now, which is very stupid.
Linked to 2 different numbers? I don't understand.
No, the same phone number. Just, it's like Wyatt Terosian and Wyatt T.
Oh, God.
I know.
Okay. Don't come for me for my Crown
Not
Royal.
me. I didn't do it. I didn't say anything. All I said it was not for me, which is a factual statement.
This is something that, any good Southerner would crucify me for, and I understand that. A lot of Southerners love their dark liquor.
Dark liquor.
They love the bourbon, they love the whiskey, and I understand. I do. I am a more clear spirits gal.
I'm sorry, I just pictured you in a pink sundress holding a bottle of vodka on the beach. It was really horrifying.
Clear spirits are my bag. Occasionally, I will have some kind of nightcap or something where I'll go in more a dark liquor fashion. But I do not have the taste for it. I'm not... it's kind of like it's kind of like wine. You have to develop your taste buds. You have to develop your specific flavor of
Which
what you like.
I don't really see you drink red wine either. More whites and rosés. Yeah.
But, well, I can appreciate red. But the point is, because red makes me hot and sweaty. So
You're literally a menopausal Southern woman.
I know. So, bourbon, whiskey, they're fine. I like the kind of sweeter stuff, like Jack, like Crown, like some of that other stuff, like
Little moonshine samples you brought.
the Wild Turkey. That's a little bit too much for me. Like that, it's like, ugh, it's high octane shit. And
All that stuff gives me a headache. The most I can go, because even with rum, I'll stick with lighter rum and maybe a little touch of dark rum in a Mai Tai. The most I can do is a very, very light single malt scotch.
right.
Not mixed, not,
So, like I said, it's a very Southern thing to like the dark liquor.
dark liquor.
And so my taste is only for the probably less, what's the word I'm looking for? Less refined dark liquor. So the Jack and the Crown are the things that I gravitate towards. And when you taste the Crown Peach, it mixes well with other things. Regular Crown is really only good with like a Coke, honestly.
Regular Crown smells like Elizabeth Taylor white diamonds. And it's
Yeah.
drunk by the women who wear it.
Yeah, so it's not my favorite. But the flavors, I've had the apple, which is good, but it's only good with certain things. The peach you can really mix with a lot of different things.
And during the summer, peach, you can make a lemonade, you can
With
make a
tea,
spritzer. With tea,
so
yeah.
I made the other day the peach lemonade with
That's good.
tea, and I let you taste it, and you were like, "Oh, okay, like
Yeah.
this isn't overly sweet because I put a lot of lemon juice and
Yeah.
to cut the sweetness of the Crown." So I have my reasons for liking the things that I do, and it's a blight on my heritage, but it is what it is.
Well, it's also a blight on your reputation at our local Total Wine. I didn't say it was for you. I just said it was for somebody else.
Did you even ask where I was? No.
No. But the Starbucks barista did ask today.
Oh, God.
So,
They did?
no, the other one.
Oh.
Their ears were not burning. So, the moral of the story is I just wanted to come back and get your authentic reaction to his reaction to me trying to do a mitzvah and get you the alcohol that you need to go to bed at night.
I do not need it to go to bed at night. It just makes a nice nightcap.
So, yeah, that was today.
Well, next time I see him, I will explain that
Admonish
yes, it
him?
was for me, but do not judge me, asshole, with the painted nails. Oh,
What?
this woman just passed by taking pictures in front of our house. Ma'am.
Dirty one?
No, like taking pictures of the house.
What is she, a Fed?
I don't know. Maybe.
I said too much.
We said way too much. But there are several other things to talk about because you wanted to talk about the Vicky Gunvalson thing, which I'd like to hear.
Yes.
Did you listen to it?
Yeah, it was only like 30 minutes.
Okay, well, I'll let you explain that in a second. But to tie up the one last thing about the person who made up the resume,
Yes.
the public school superintendent of Campbell County, Tennessee.
Okay.
So my mother worked for the Campbell County
Yeah.
School District.
That's the
for a few years.
superintendent is in charge of the school.
Right.
Yeah.
So she worked for the high school for a few years before she retired. And the last few years that she worked, that she taught, the superintendent that was elected by the people, he was illiterate.
Oh.
So yes, a superintendent of schools who could not read. But nepotism. He appointed a woman to... A woman. Fish.
A woman.
He appointed this woman to be right under him, like the... what is... I don't know what the...
Vice superintendent, I don't know.
It's not vice... whatever the position is right under him. Basically like vice principal, vice superintendent.
It's just the intendant. He's the superintendent, you're just the intendant.
Sure, whatever. We'll go with that. So her resume said, and it had to be published in the newspaper for everyone
Yeah.
because she was, she was being hired for that job. She had a PhD in education.
Oh, wow.
Like, she was, like, on board with Dr. Jill Biden, you know, that kind of shit. She had all these credentials and this big resume. And they published it out, and it was, okay, good. A year later, we find out, oh, they've been having an affair for 5 years. And they are both married.
Oh.
But they've been sleeping together for, like, 5 years. Okay, that raised some red flags. That forced other people to be like, well, who is this woman? She made up everything. She didn't have a doctorate. She didn't have a master's. She barely had a bachelor's degree. She made up an entire fucking resume.
Oh my God.
To get into this position.
So no one questioned why this woman was being appointed?
No one questioned anything. No one knew where she came from. She just appeared. And they're like, okay, well, she has the credentials. We'll just let her do the job. They're both in jail now.
Jail? Wow.
Yes, under the jail.
Under the jail.
But that's some shit.
Well, I told you that the principal of my high school, who is this old Italian man who was kind of... He was one of those people who was in the school system, as the school system tends to do with tenure and benefits and everything like this. He would have probably been in... He passed his prime about 20 years earlier. So he checked out in probably the 80s, maybe early 90s. Like, he was kind of like probably a young, vigorous, you know, still had it together. By this point, he was probably mid to late, like 60s, maybe 70s, had been in the school system forever, was 0% responsive to emails, to messages, probably didn't even know how to do an email.
I was about to say.
Like, just like clueless. Like, if there was a fire drill, they'd have to make sure that he could get out of the building. So, nice man, very nice, but just that way gone. His wife was somehow chosen above any other healthcare professional in the Central Valley, where there's a lot of nurses there. In fact, there's more nurses per capita than just about anywhere else because a lot of Filipino immigrants and there's a lot of local nursing programs. There's a lot of healthcare people there. His wife was appointed to be the chief nurse of the entire school district. So that oversees every school nurse, making sure that they're hired, oversees vaccination programs, everything like this for the entire district and all this stuff. Was she qualified? Probably not. But because she was, you know, Mrs. P, she gets picked. I found out, and I think I don't know if I mentioned this in this podcast before, that they, just salary, the two of them were bringing home $500,000 a year. Jeez. Then he was appointed for higher up in the district because finally he was too old to be principal, and it was just like, just give him a job up in an office somewhere he doesn't have to interact with anybody. Then it was $500,000 plus whatever salary bump he got from that, so probably $600,000 they're bringing home as a family, plus benefits, plus, you know, educational employees, credit union, home loans, auto loans. They don't have to pay for anything for the rest of their life. The best health care, the best pension. They basically get to retire with full salary forever. And, you know, telling that to my parents, my dad was like, I should have just gone into it. Like, he almost became a teacher. He's like, I should have just become a history teacher at the high school level. Like, the teachers in my town drove Cadillacs and Mercedes when you had kids that were you know, with food stamps and grew up in trailers. I don't know how that was the case. And by the way, the ones who were very good, usually the ones who were very good lived a lot more modestly. The ones who were the shittiest ones were the ones that were extravagant.
Well, and to be fair, I have to say that is not the norm.
No,
teachers are usually paid shit.
And that's the thing I've heard too. And that was the thing where I think it was like they got in at a certain time, and once you were juiced in, and they were building a lot of new schools in an area that was expanding, you were guaranteed a job at whatever new school was.
Something tells you that's teachers' unions bullshit.
Probably.
Yeah. Leveraging.
There were two teachers who were molesting students that didn't get fired. They just got transferred.
Yeah. Oh, that's how the teachers union works. It's teachers unions are the bane of well, don't even get me on my soapbox.
Well, which, by the way,
the whole education department should be disbanded.
Oh well, yeah, but I'm going to say something probably controversial, but also correct. Oh, there is no less sexy environment than a government school. It is disgusting. It's laminate everywhere. It's gross. The people look gross. Cement blocks. Like, it's basically it's not even one step above jail because it's the same food program. It's
in the same style buildings.
Same style buildings. Built around the same time with the same tax dollars. I don't understand how all these teachers are having affairs and superintendents and teachers with the students. It's the environment where I'm like, there is nothing about this that like the whole thing gives people the ick. I don't understand why some people are like, oh, yes, I'm in a government building. Time to whip out my weenie. That's very strange. I don't understand that. But it seems like it's this constant thing that happens. And I think it's because if you did that in a normal workplace where you had to meet performance standards and stuff like this, you'd be fired immediately. Like without, with prejudice. But in a it's almost like they can get away with getting off in their job. And that's so odd to me. I don't know.
It's all a racket.
That's what it sounds
I
like.
have plenty of stories, but I'm not going to get into them. Vicky Gunvalson. Someone dragged her carcass out.
Well, so apparently there's this guy who's a gossip blogger. And he had a gossip blog called The Dirty, I guess, where he talked about Real Housewives and he talked about other stuff. And you have some experience doing this in the past. But he also grew up in Trabuco Canyon, Coto de Caza, where the Real Housewives of Orange County started. So he knew a lot of the wives early on. He's a Persian guy.
Where I believe Vicky still lives, by the way.
Yes, she does. Not in the original house, but in her current house. And so there were a couple things that she mentioned. He started in talking about how she's a MILF and everything like this. And she was like, oh my gosh, thank you. And, her little Midwestern accent. Talking about how her love tank wasn't filled. Talking about all of her previous relationships and marriages and everything like this and how they all went wrong. And she did say a couple things that were interesting, though. One, she does not get residuals from the show. None of them do. So if they rebroadcast any of the show, again or in other countries, 0%, zero residuals because it's reality.
Yeah.
And that was not the contract. She said
that makes sense.
Seasons 1 and 2, she was not paid at all. So the first 2 seasons of the show was basically just an exposure contract. So you'll get exposure, which is why the business centered around Coto Insurance and her doing that and not anything else. And she said, I remember when they said we're going to do another show on this channel called Moms in Manhattan. She said, I knew ahead of time that was going to mean the end. Because that was going to mean that it becomes this franchise, it becomes this whole thing. And she's like, I really just wanted it to focus on us. So that was kind of the beginning of the end. She said that had she not been on the show, she would have never been divorced from Don Gunvalson. She said that the only person that she would never talk to again would be Megan King Edmonds. She said, I called that one. I said that her and Jim Edmonds would divorce 5 years, and 5 years in a day, guess what? They got divorced. So, who's the genius now? And just, ripped him. Talked about still being, having no hard words against Lori and Gina Keogh and all those other people. Like, she's still friends with them. Still lives in Coto and all that. But it was very sad listening to her talk, because I think this is a very interesting person. There's not many people who can speak to their experiences from the beginning of reality television. A lot of those people in the surreal life are dead now. Tammy Faye, Ron Jeremy's in jail, Flavor Flav doesn't know where he is, a couple of other celebrities. Like, there's not a lot of people. Anna Nicole, dead. Whitney Houston, dead. Like, a lot of those people at the beginning of reality television are no longer around to talk about, in the current environment, what it was like to do that and have cameras in your house, to know what to say and what not to say. That's a very interesting pathology.
Though, it makes sense. The whole... So if you listen to anything that Bethany says, because she talks about, especially on her Instagram...
Another person who was around at the beginning. Yeah,
she'll talk about a lot of that background stuff that I guess technically they're not supposed to, but... whatever. It makes sense looking at how these shows are produced and the footage, that if they're testing a show, they're not paying them anything. If they are paying them something, they're paying them very little, because they're seeing if the show is going to take off, if the show is going to be popular. So you can
it's a test.
You can kind of clock. The first few seasons of Southern Charm,
right?
Another hit Bravo show. The first 2 seasons or so, some of the cast members, they weren't hurting, but they weren't like rich.
Yeah.
So you would see them, in a normal house, in a normal condo, in a normal, any normal person in Charleston would have. Then you hit season 3 and 4, and it's like, oh, this motherfucker just bought a new house. Oh, this person has a new car. Oh, like, you're seeing all of this stuff come out of the woodwork. Oh, she has new Gucci shoes. Like, you can clock, okay, Bravo knows it's a hit show now. This point. Now they're getting $100,000 for a season.
And it sounds like it always happens around season 3.
3 or 4.
Because he also said at a certain point on the show, Vicky was like, I had to work. I had to work because I was not making money on the show. But eventually, she was getting over $1 million a year per season on the show. Yeah. That's a big deal because there's not many people.
You're around for like 7-8 seasons.
Right. You can so I mean, Bravo would, I guess, would say that's your residuals because you're getting paid $1 million a year. But they were like, she was like, they invited me back on this season as a friend. I'm not a friend. I'm the OG bitch. She said just like that. So I think it is interesting though, and I think it sort of.
But she still should get paid for that.
This is why the networks are stupid because they make the mistake every single time. They pay them 0, 0, 0, and then they're like, okay, we'll now give you probably a little bit too much because we want you to stay on the show. And as most people do that feel like they've hit the lottery, they change. Their personality changes, their approach to the show changes. You can't go from getting paid nothing to getting paid a lot. Like, the minimum for most housewives is $100 to $150,000. That's more than most people make in a year. Okay. So that was a few years ago, too. That was before inflation adjusted and everything like that. That was quite a good salary. That's like doctors, lawyers make. So you go from getting nothing to then a lot. Your approach to the show is going to change because now you're going to be like, well, how do I keep this gravy train going? I got to do more. I got to make more controversy and everything. And I think quite a few housewives have burned themselves out in the eyes of the viewers and in the show itself by trying to stir up drama and start controversies when they never should have.
Which is probably why the Beverly Hills Housewives has done the best overall.
Right.
Because all of them don't need that check from.
Most of them are very independently wealthy.
They could survive without that check from Bravo.
Right. I think that Adrienne Maloof, net worth $300 million, is not like, she's not.
She's happy to take the check, but she's like, I'm not going to, break my back to make sure that I'm keep getting this check because I don't have to.
Exactly. Because as you've seen in both Beverly, now Kyle Richards is, I think, the highest earning.
Well, yeah, she's been on for literally
the
12.
Longest, yeah.
Well, no, going on 13 years.
I think she probably makes a couple million a season. But as it's written now or as it's done now, that's why a lot of the very, very wealthiest people, whether it's Adrienne Maloof or Lisa Vanderpump or Elizabeth Vargas, who you met the other night, or a lot of these other people are like, why the fuck am I I don't need to go through cameras in my life, in my house, around my friends and family for 8 months out of the year. Like, I don't need this money. And they just sort of move it along. And they get on with whatever ventures or whatever they have. But I think it's interesting, and this is why the networks are stupid. If I'm the head of a network and I want to incentivize a show, like, I would approach every show not as, one season, we'll see how it do. I approach every show as, where is this going to be in its 10th season? Okay? Because New York has passed 10 seasons, right?
I think, all the ones that are currently on except Potomac.
New York, New Jersey, Beverly Hills, and Orange County have passed 10 seasons.
And Atlanta.
And then you have Miami that's back and doing well. Salt Lake City, which is doing well. Potomac, which stays on the air.
Salt Lake City.
Yeah. So you have a couple newer ones.
Those probably will surpass 10 seasons because they're still popular.
Right. So they'll probably get to at least 10 seasons, and there's going to be more and more international ones. Maybe they'll pick another American city at some point. So by that metric, I would think, how do I incentivize the women who are on season 1 to be on season 10? Well, I would start by actually paying them decently, but not insanely, every single season, and just do slight adjustments every season to make it worth their while, so that it's more of a salary and not, broke to millionaire. Because then you don't change the character of who's coming in.
But do you know how those housewives get around that? And this is what Bethany said. These housewives shoot themselves in the foot all the time. They go to negotiate with Bravo together.
That's a mistake.
So they're like, here's 3 housewives. You get all of us or none of us, but you have to pay each of us X amount of money.
That's stupid.
And so if they want at least 1 or 2 of you, they're going to go, okay, fine, I guess we have to, take
Right.
this third one, even though we don't necessarily
And then
want
that's how you end up with kind of like bland seasons and people who should not be on the show.
Well, they kind of shoot themselves in the foot, because if you then have another boring season with one of these housewives that you've, one of your fellow castmates that you've like linked yourself with, then it's like, okay, well then you're all gone.
But this is why I don't know.
We're going to cut our losses.
Which happened. Has happened in New York. It's happened in some other areas where they've lost large chunks of the housewives on the show because Now Vicky had some not so kind things to say about Heather Dubrow. Like she was talking about, she's like, Heather's snooty and she's never made herself known to me, or like, she's always kind of turned her nose up. And she said, I think that the Dubrows just print money and that's why they're on the show. But she also mentioned something interesting. I didn't know that Terry's brother was a founding member of Quiet Riot, the band.
I did know that.
You did. So apparently he inherited, his brother died and his father died, and Terry Dubrow inherited an incredible amount of money.
Okay.
So that's how they bought all the houses and everything. Like his show and his plastic surgery is earning money, but not $15 million house money. So that makes a lot of sense. So that's also been a part of their discussion. But it was a very interesting sort of window into what this is like. And I would say the only 2 housewives that have gone on to, or maybe the only 3 that have gone on to some kind of career after Housewives, but still talking about their experiences doing it and still friendly with those people, would be Bethany, Brandy, and Kelly Dodd.
Yes. Yeah.
The other ones, like, there's no other real New York ones, which once they're off, they become somebody. Atlanta either. But, I don't know, apparently Vicky said that Eva, Phaedra, and Brandy are her best friends now. And they're all...
Who said that? Vicky said that? Oh,
and they're all going out to Puerto Vallarta for 4th of July. So, anyway. Done our alcohol update, we've done our housewives update.
And so one last political thing really quickly.
I want to talk about the Supreme Court case, the Indian thing. But
Well,
yeah.
I haven't had a chance to read anything about it. So
Well, I know a little bit, but maybe
Should
we'll
we push
preview
it?
it and yeah.
they're in the works, and this started obviously months ago, but they are actually pushing forward this possible impeachment of Biden. Did you hear about any of this today?
So I heard that there was a fight between Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene about competing impeachment resolutions. Now, I don't know what it is. The girls are fighting. The divorcees are fighting.
So, yeah, the House voted today to pass a rule sending a resolution offered by Lauren Boebert to committee on whether or not to impeach Biden.
I mean, they won't.
The rule was passed along party lines.
The rule was passed, though.
Discussions are being opened to possibly impeach him.
Impeach 46.
I mean, you could say that they have rights and grounds to do so. So
You know what's strange about Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene? I have an aversion to people who get into politics and then get divorced. There's something about it that gives me the ick. And I understand that there's more pressures, you're working different hours, you're around a different environment, the person that you're with is in a different city, maybe in a different state, and that puts a lot of stress on the relationship, but you also, I think, there is something to be said for you do have an image to maintain, and that should be in the back of your mind when you're conducting yourself as a public servant. And so, have there been any... no president's been divorced while they're in the White House.
No.
I don't think any justice either. But there is this sort of, I think, thing about whether it's members of Congress or people in that part of political life, that there is a higher rate for... It's like the reality stars. Like, there's a higher rate for divorce among reality stars. There's a higher rate for divorce among members of Congress. And whether it's like what Newt Gingrich did, it happens on both sides, or them, or, some of these other people. There's something about it that, like, whether it's Boebert or Marjorie, I've said positive things about them in the past. I think they've been unfairly targeted as women who are on the right. I think that's nasty. But there is something about it where I'm like, ugh. Even Sarah Palin, who I love more than just about anybody. And I'm like, you guys are in your like late 50s, early 60s now. You have a child with special needs. What the fuck are you doing? Like, how bad could it be? Like, there's something about that just makes me go like, come on.
But that just proves the point that you shouldn't, as I don't, trust any politician, doesn't matter what side they're on. And they're all doing something that they shouldn't, because that person that they're married to sees what's behind closed doors, and they see, I guarantee you, it's not that they're realizing, oh, I can't live with this strained life. 90% of the time, I'm sure it's oh, I'm seeing a side of you that I don't like anymore because you're doing things behind the scenes that I don't like, that are shady, possible. That are underhanded, that are whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this power is getting to your head. You're doing things that are corrupt or whatever. You're taking money from someone that we don't like. Or
so you're saying that if these people were also in a similar business environment or legal environment or financial environment, like if they were in those worlds or tech or any of those other sort of like large worlds, that could possibly happen too. Like you started off as a minor functionary and now you're leading a company or you're on a board or
you're doing things.
You're an investment banker. Yeah, I can understand that. That's interesting to me too. Because I think that the ideal for being a member of Congress is stay there long enough to get your pension and get the fuck out. That should be the term limit. You reach your pension at a certain point. Like I think you have to be elected twice. You get your pension, get it out. That's where I think that term limits are good for congressional marriages. Let's just put it that way.
Well,
but then,
that's true.
Okay, here's the other thing though that I don't. Nancy and Paul Pelosi have been married since the Buchanan administration. Not Pat, James.
But maybe they're both equally as fucked up and corrupt.
But that's the thing. Dianne Feinstein was married to her husband till his death a year ago. She just turned 90 today.
And her death 5 years ago.
Well, she turned 90 today. So did you send her a card? No. That's your senator. That's my senator, actually.
I was about to say. I technically live here, not officially.
Chuck Schumer is married to that Bowser. Have you seen Chuck Schumer's wife?
No.
Oh my God, she looks like Prince Charles. Let me find a picture.
Oh God.
For years. So there is something about these old politicians, just stay married forever. Chuck Schumer, wife. They were married in 1980.
But wait a minute. Wait a second. You've just listed a ton of Democrat liberal people.
She looks like him in a wig.
Oh God.
That's unfortunate.
But you just listed a bunch of Democrats.
Yes.
You have a bunch of Democrats who are probably okay with cheating. So they're married on paper, but they're living their own lives. They're doing their own thing.
What is Chuck Schumer's wife going to cheat on him with? A ballistic missile?
I'm just saying, people, the more conservative and more, people with more integrity, I use that loosely.
Yeah.
They're not apt to step outside of marriage.
Let me see Chuck Grassley's wife. Chuck Grassley. Barbara Grassley, married 1954. They've been married for 65 years. Look at that.
I guess my point is. Oh well.
Yeah. So there you go. He's married to it looks like she's the See's Candies lady.
My point is, Paul Pelosi is having gay sex every day, and Nancy is. Wait
a second. We can't say that. You want to, of all the things I've said that are potentially actionable, and you just whip out a statement like that.
Allegedly.
Oh my God.
And Nancy's, okay with it.
He's gonna hammer you with a lawsuit so bad.
I'm sure he'll never hear this.
Oh my God.
But allegedly, that's what people say, and it could be true. So, he could be having his own dalliances while Nancy's,
drunk.
Sucking and fucking in D.C.
I'm not naming this episode Nancy Sucking and Fucking in D.C. Just so you know.
Well, I think you should.
Well.
Go fuck yourselves.
Oh, well, she does.